Hi, my name's Isaac, and this is a brand new 2024 Honda Civic Touring. And today, I'm gonna review it for you guys. Now, I've been reviewing cars for a little over 4 years now, but I have never done a Civic before. I guess I just figured everyone had already talked about the Civic and there was nothing new that I could add to the conversation. But in doing research for this review, I was surprised to find out that the Civic is more than meets the eye. Okay, I'm not implying it's a transformer. Realistically, it just has a few more buttons than I thought it did and some nice features that I think you might be impressed by. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Civic Honda of Williamsport, Pennsylvania for allowing me to borrow this vehicle to review. For all your Honda needs in the Williamsport area, I'll leave a link to their website in the description below. See, what always ends up happening is someone watches one of my videos, they go to their local dealership, ask for the transformer car, the dealership naturally says, that's not a thing that's real. Where would you have heard something insane like that? And then they point back to my YouTube channel, thus ruining my reputation. Anyway, moving on to the front end of this Civic, I'll actually talk about the car now, I promise. You'll have LED headlights, LED daytime running lights, and LED turn signals, as well as LED fog lights and parking sensors that dot the front end of this car. Honda recently redesigned the Civic and pulled back its sharp, angular styling. I personally think this is for the better because it was a pretty wild design previous to this, and I don't know how they could make it look even crazier without dividing the Civic demographic even more, but I think this was a good look. It's a little bit more bubbly, but I think that's the best route for the Civic. Moving underneath the hood on this Touring, it's powered by a 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 180 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque. And that is paired to a continuously variable transmission, though a 6-speed manual is also available on the Civic on other trims. Moving to the profile of the Civic Touring, starting down here with the wheels and tires, you'll get Goodyear Eagle Sport 235 40R tires around these two-tone 18-inch wheels. I think they really add to the sort of luxury sport appearance of this Touring trim. Then you'll get a body color mirror cap right here with a turn signal indicator and blind spot monitoring right there. And then moving to the door, you do have keyless entry, so you can tap that for lock, and then you can put your hand behind that to unlock it, so that's very convenient. And as we move down the profile, tapping the fuel door pops it open. There's no interior pull tab, but that does lock with the rest of the vehicle, which is nice. And then moving here to the rear of the Touring, you'll get Civic Touring badges, and then you do get dual exhaust, though nothing fancy. You get the exhaust pipe in there and there. There's no cool design with that. You do get a backup camera right there and the ability to open the tailgate from here. Again, nothing crazy, though there is a very wide amount of space back here, and you do have the ability to pop the rear seats down for a little bit more cargo capacity and a more flush load floor, and your emergency pull tab right here for getting kidnapped. Hopefully no one will ever need to use that on one of these things. I do want to touch on the key fob very quickly. You'll get lock, unlock, panic, remote start, and the ability to pop open the trunk from the fob. Now, you cannot lower it, unfortunately, though, you know, you don't need that ability. It's just not included here. One thing I do want to highlight really quick that I think is a neat attention to detail on Honda's part is the key fob right here has a little car on it. Now, doesn't really look like a Civic, but I still have the key fob from the CR-V I just reviewed, and that has a little SUV, maybe a little bit closer to a minivan, but I like that they have a different graphic on each key. I think that's a neat little thing that makes these cars unique. Moving to the interior of the Civic, it feels really premium in here. Helped in no small part by the really cool climate vent design right here. Now, the climate vents are traditional. They stop about here and then continue a little further over on the passenger side, but that look really feels premium. And the materials feel very premium in here too, like on the door panel, this is soft touch, this is soft touch, and this is a cool design down here. I really like that. The texture feels nice where the window and mirror controls are. And they have a nice door handle. That looks really cool. You'll also get your button to pop the trunk down here. It's kind of hidden away. The button to turn the rear parking sensors off, traction control off, and this button lets you choose what you want to mess with on the safety system here. So you can turn off some of the safety stuff or leave it on. It's kind of up to you. Blind spot monitoring, low speed braking, collision mitigation, stuff like that. So that's the button right there. And then this controls the brightness of your gauge cluster screen. We'll talk about this gauge cluster screen in a little bit more detail in 1 second. First, I want to talk about the steering wheel. It is very finely trimmed in a leatherette material. And then you have controls for your volume, Bluetooth, cruise control, radar guided cruise control, and then you do have pretty standard turn signals and windshield wipers, but you also do get paddle shifters, which is a nice addition. Now, fully moving into this digital gauge cluster screen, I like how the Civic has a fully digital screen. It's funny, the CR-V I just reviewed, as I previously mentioned, only has half digital and then one traditional speedometer. It's very interesting how they've kind of half committed but fully committed here. Now there's a lot of stuff you can mess with. With the button right here on the steering wheel, you can control your apps, Bluetooth on this side, and then on the other side, you can control a host of other features. I really like the ability to customize the display. You can change your gauge design if you want to have it go into this more optimized, cool looking design. You can do that or stick with the more traditional look. There are a lot of options, and it just has just a really cool look overall. And then you do have some lights that are in the standard spots for your headlights, stuff like that, your fuel, how much you have, and then obviously if I'm buckled in or not, which I'm scandalously not, though I am in park sitting in a parking lot. Now moving over here to the infotainment screen, it is very fast, very quick in its infotainment implementation. That was probably redundant, but I digress. You'll have navigation built in, though this does, of course, have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So speaking of redundancy, you don't really need this. But SiriusXM is also a feature, and if we throw this into reverse, you'll get a pretty clear backup camera with guiding lines. As I turn the wheel, the lines also turn. Now there's no top-down view here, but it does give you a couple of different angles. So this is the wide angle. You can do a more zoomed in look, and then kind of straight down, but only on the rear. You don't get a 360 camera here, but what you do get is the ability to see kind of the car in this 3D image on the side with the parking sensors. So those parking sensors will go off if you're getting close to something, and that's a neat detail. I also like how you have the ability to adjust the brightness right here of the screen. I think that's convenient, especially if you're doing this at nighttime. That is nice. So that's fun and functional with the infotainment. You also get a traditional volume knob, so love to see that. The Civic was highly criticized in the past for not having a volume knob, but it's back here, and I think that is a great addition. Something so simple can be so impactful. And then if we move down here, you do have a kind of mix of digital and traditional climate controls right here. So right now, if I click off, that turns off the displays for the climate. Turning it back on, you can see there is adjustment right there. And it's a very, again, very premium design with the dials right here. Now you do get physical buttons for your heated seats, which is cool, but they're also, again, a mix of kind of that digital implementation. And then you'll have two USBs right here, a 12-volt wireless charging, cup holders, and that cool design from the door continues into the center tunnel right here. You also have your drive mode selector. You can switch between sport, normal, and econ, and then you'll have auto engine start stop, electronic parking brake, and brake hold. Two cup holders, and opening this up, you get a little tiny storage cubby right there that can pop out, and a deeper chasm, though there is not much in the way of USB or charging or anything in there, though you do have the ability to move your little tiny storage thing from one spot to the other. So that is a neat addition in here. And then opening up the glove box really quick, you get a decent amount of storage in there. Traditional mirror, and this Civic is equipped with a sunroof. I always like to see a sunroof, even if this one is not panoramic. It does add to a more premium feel. Overall, I like the interior of this Civic. It's very quaint. It's laid out quite nicely and very straightforwardly. Moving to the second row, unfortunately, this does continue the trend of having different material quality in the rear compared to up front. So like this, for example, is hard touch. While this does continue the soft touch trend and the cool texture here, I just wish this was soft touch like it is up front. Now, there are not a ton of compromises back here because I do have a good deal of legroom, probably 3 or 4 inches, and maybe 1.5 inches of headroom. It definitely is small back here, being 5'9", about average height for a man. I fit okay. You know, if someone's taller, this is definitely going to be a little bit of a squeeze, though it's not the end of the world, and obviously this is a Civic. You do get 2 traditional USBs back here. It would be nice to see a USB-C, but I digress. You do get an armrest and 2 cup holders that fold down. Overall, fairly comfortable in here, and it does feel nice. All right, driving the new Civic, getting on the highway here. We're gonna accelerate in a second, see how this handles. Yeah, this picks up pretty quickly, all things considered. There's a car in front of me, I can't accelerate too much faster. But this does pick up pretty quickly, especially compared to the CR-V I recently reviewed. These are probably coming out at different times. In fact, this video might come out before the CR-V, I don't know. But is the toils of YouTube upload schedules. Overall, though, this handles really nicely. And, you know, I think the seating position is very firm and comfortable. And the car in general is just very grippy. It's got that cool low slung design. And the acceleration is nice. The turning, the handling, very grippy. I think I've said grippy a couple times now. But I think it has... it does handle well, and I think the infotainment system and the gauge cluster, everything is laid out very nicely overall, and I mean, it's safe. I mean, the Civic has always known how to kind of play to a specific audience, and they know what to do here. I mean, it's just a nice car overall. There's not much that I can complain about. I think it was a wise choice to pull back the styling of this car compared to the outgoing model in lieu of how wild that already looked. And I think they've done a great job, and they've focused, I feel, a little bit more on the luxury of this generation of the Civic with the interior build quality and the comfort that you get as opposed to maybe just the styling. Well, that is just about going to wrap up my review of the Honda Civic. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Before I go, though, I'd like to mention that I am a Christian, and if you have any prayer requests, I would love to be able to pray for you guys. You can leave those in the comment section below. And lastly, I like to close out on a weekly scriptural reading. This week, I'm in James, chapter 1, verse 14. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Take care.